Hi guys, so should just be going live. I'm just gonna look and add a few people that said that they wanted to kind of come along, and hopefully we can get started. So it's gonna be a couple of minutes of just me talking a little bit of waffle whilst we wait for a few people to kind of join us. I've hopefully got the comments available so I can see if you are commenting. Also, please drop me little likes and things as we go along so I know you're there. I've also got the laptop with me set up, so if you don't want to post comments here, you can drop me a private message as we're going along, and I can answer your questions there too. So hopefully all set up. Hi Mum, yes, I can see your names come up, don't panic, I can't see you. So just literally waiting for a few people to come. I've got the dog whining at the side of me, and hopefully no one can hear the kids screaming at each other. And then we just need to wait for a couple more people to join us and we can get started. So sorry about having to change from Thursday. I know that was arranged for a little while, but unfortunately had a minor bump in the car, nothing major, but I'm still a little bit too shaky and a little bit too sore to get on and do the live. The irony is not lost on me that I had to cancel my Don't Let Your Pain Manage Your Life due to a bit of pain, but hopefully we're all ready to go today. Yay! Right, so just really to kind of start off, just to kind of find out why you're here, why you're watching the live. There will be a replay on YouTube as well, so comments and stuff will be there to see, and any questions that have been asked can be answered along that way as well. So I've got a couple of questions that have already been asked. Hi Emma, how are you? And then hopefully what we can do, we can answer those questions as we go along. So just write in your comment box here if you've got any questions, highs or hellos or anything you want, little emojis, anything, and I can see them. And then hopefully I can answer any questions. And as I say, a few people are putting in the private messages, so if I keep looking to one side, that's what that is. Hi Emma, thank you. I know my comments are working. Thank you, darling. Right, so just really wondering why you've joined me. There's a couple of reasons. It might be that you yourself suffer with pain. It could be that somebody you care about, a loved one, suffers with pain. It could be that you're a manager at work and you've got somebody who works for you who is somebody who has a pain condition and you want to know a little bit more about it, or you want to know how to help them. So whatever your reason, thank you for joining me. I really hope you find this work useful. Hi Sarah, thanks for joining. So, first of all, kind of to cover what is pain. So I did a little bit of research into what is pain, and it's not very helpful. So pain is considered to be, when you're hurt, is the dictionary version of it, when you feel pain and you're hurt or injured. So that kind of covers pain, which isn't very useful. However, I did a little bit of digging, and I did find that the Latin abbreviation or context of pain is punishment. So that sounds a little bit more kind of what we feel. If you're somebody who suffers pain on a regular basis or knows what it's like to have been through pain, it does feel a little bit like punishment. So I think that's quite a good way of seeing it, and quite a nice little bit of research to do. So pain has come from the Latin version of punishment. So for those of us that have got chronic conditions, we've obviously done something a little bit naughty in our lives, and it's a little bit of payback maybe. And there are two types of pain. So you have acute pain and you have chronic pain. So acute pain is when you know it's going to go away. So if you've broken your leg, you've got a toothache, you suffer with something that kind of comes and then goes. So not a long-term condition. So if you're a migraine sufferer, that comes under your chronic pain conditions, because that is something that will return. So acute pain is something that you are likely to only feel once, and it could be long distance, long time, so a couple of weeks, something like that. So toothache, broken bones, that kind of stuff. Whereas chronic pain is when you are going to be a long-term sufferer. So migraines, if you suffer with cluster headaches, if you suffer with something like MS, ME, fibro, lupus, all of those kind of conditions. Anything where you're not going to get better from it. You're going to have ups and downs. You're not going to maybe suffer with it every day, but you're not going to get away from this condition. That's classed as chronic pain. Now, within those conditions, there are 4 types of pain relief, and they're all Latin words, and they go into a real lot of detail. So I would suggest, if you're that interested, then drop me a message and I'll send you the link to have a little look at, but I'm not going to waste the live going through all of that. So usually pain is kind of gathered, the information is gathered by a 1 to 10 scale or 0 to 10 scale. If you've ever gone into hospital, the nurse will say, what's your pain feel like? Is it between 0 and 10? 10 being the worst pain you've ever had and 0 being no pain at all. This is useless. This is really of no help whatsoever, because everybody's pain levels are different. And if I went into the hospital and I was to say, okay, well, for me, my pain level 1 to 10, 10 would be a broken bone and a 5 would be a really nasty headache, and the person that I was speaking to had an amputation, their 10 is going to be a lot different to mine, isn't it? An amputation and a broken bone is going to be very different. So you can't really use the 0 to 10 scale, and yet the hospitals and the doctors, they do insist on using it because they've got no other way of being able to measure your pain and the level of pain. So what they try to do is they try to use things that you know about. So I once had a doctor ask me my pain level, was it worse or better than stepping on Lego? And that was a brilliant way of doing it, because everybody has stepped on Lego and everybody hates that, and it really does hurt. So to be able to measure your pain level against stepping on a piece of Lego, most people can actually do that, and there's a pretty kind of worldwide variation of what that pain feels like. So your pain levels are between, say, your 0 and your 10. They are determined from birth. So I did loads of research into this and found it really, really interesting. So when you're born, your brain has had no pain at all. So when you're first born and you come out into the big wide world, the light that you see at first is your 10. That is the worst pain you've ever seen. So that brightness to your eyes is the worst. Hence generally why when babies are born, I suppose, most of them are screaming the place down. Then within about 10 minutes of being in the world, they're starving hungry. So all of a sudden that light pain is now a 5 and this hunger pain is a 10. So what happens is, during your first few years of life, you'll fall over, you'll get bruises, you'll get scrapes, you might roll off the bed and have a bump or something, and your brain will start to package those feelings between 0 and 10. So it will start to use all your previous pains and all your previous incidents as a way of measuring your 0 to 10. So if you're a child that grew up wrapped in cotton wool, never being allowed to climb anything, never playing out in the street, you're not going to have as many bumps and bruises and scrapes and sprains and strains as a child that has been allowed to run around and get out there and get hurt and things like that. So when people talk about allowing your child to experience life and to, build up their immune system, that's a similar kind of idea, and it does work. So when people talk about children that have been in hospital and the fact that, they can really take on life and they can, really handle some awful stuff, it's because their brains have the opportunity to put their 0 to 10 in a different position to a child that's maybe only just kind of had a couple of tumbles. A child that's broken a bone will appear to have a higher pain threshold than a child that hasn't. They don't have a higher pain threshold at all. There is no such thing as pain threshold. It's this brain putting things in little boxes between the 1 and 10. So the brain goes, right, actually, at 3 years old I broke my arm, that's now my 10. So the feeling hungry is now a 3. And stepping on Lego is a 37, as we know, because that's the worst pain ever in the world. And it starts to put all these different things in place. Now, when you then get to a position where you start to develop conditions, that throws that 0 to 10 out. So I'll come back to that in a minute. So if you're somebody with us at the moment who suffers with a chronic condition or cluster headaches and stuff, you'll get that in a bit. So we'll get to that. So don't panic just yet. So, causes of pain. So you have what we call real pain. And again, if you're somebody that suffers with an invisible illness or a chronic condition, please don't start yelling at me just yet. I'm not saying that you're lying about your pain, but for sake of being able to split it into two categories, they're referred to as real pain and invisible pain. So real pain is you've fallen down the stairs and you've broken a bone, or you've sprained an ankle, you've done sports and you've got an injury from that way. Oh, hang on a minute, I've got a comment there from Emma, I just need to look at that. Yeah, definitely, and certainly medication and things can get involved and cause problems too. Hi Tessa, thanks for joining. So, but we do come along to talk about medication and the impact that has as well in a bit, so that's really interesting. So, I need to think where I was now. So, yeah, so basically you have your real pain, which is where you've maybe had a sporting injury or you've physically done something to the body that is causing pain. So not your cluster headaches, not migraines, not fibro, not lupus, none of those kind of things. These are things where pretty much they can be seen or you know they're there. So you've got an x-ray or a scan or an image that the hospital will produce that shows that there is some pain there or a problem. So that is what they refer to as real pain. Now this is where doctors can really upset people, because when they talk to people with invisible conditions, they'll say things like it's in your head or it's an invisible condition, it's an invisible pain. And people get really upset by that because it's suggesting that you've made it up, and it's not. It's the way that the medical industry separate the two types of pain, and they refer to one as real pain and one as invisible pain. So you need to kind of understand first of all what type of pain you have. So if you have real pain and you have an injury, that's probably going to more likely fall under your acute pain than anything else, because it's an injury that's going to heal, it's going to get better. If you have an invisible illness or an invisible pain, that's more likely going to fall under your chronic conditions, because they're more long term, they're more likely to cause you long term problems, and they're less likely to go away. So that's a little bit of information about what pain is and how it's kind of referred to. So, thinking about the type of support you might need when you're suffering from pain. So, not everybody really knows what support is out there. So you can go to your GP and you'll see them. And if you've got a really good GP, they'll know how to help you and they'll be supportive. If you've got a GP that doesn't really understand it, and I'm thinking more along your invisible conditions more than your actual pains, then you're in for a little bit of a harder run, because it's very difficult to prove. And if you don't have a GP that supports you, even getting to the hospital to have these kind of x-rays and scans and consultant appointments are going to be very difficult. So I did a bit more research into what GPs are taught as part of their training, and only just in the last 3 years are GPs being taught as part of their training to understand invisible illnesses like cluster headaches, fibromyalgia, lupus, even down to some MS and some of their conditions and some of the treatment for MS as well. So if you're somebody who has a chronic condition where the pain is classed as an invisible pain, if your doctor's over the age of about 30, it's unlikely that they've ever had any real training on how to support you. So I'm not suggesting you go to your GP and you say, I want a young doctor, because, well, they may think you're just being a bit pervy and they may not kind of consider it as good as they should do. But it does help you to explain that when you go along to your GP and you see an older doctor, why they say things like, oh, you just need to get out more, or, you know, there's not a lot I can do for you. I know when I first spoke to my GP, he said, well, it's going to be really painful, you're going to have to live with it, it's going to be really horrible, but you'll get through it. And kind of left me at that, and I had to kind of make the rest up as I went along. So when I got a new GP, and I went to see him about something else, all of a sudden I got all this support and I got to go to a pain clinic and all of this kind of thing. So your initial support is really important. So you can see a GP, you can go and see a physio, you can see a pain clinic, you can see consultants. There are lots of different things that you can do, but you may have to argue for it, you may have to push for it. So don't just go along to your GP and assume they're going to be the all's doing, all singing, all knowing, because they probably aren't, and a lot of them don't understand it enough to be able to give you the right support. So you want to get the right support from the right places. So there are alternative medications as well. So you can see sort of herbalists, acupuncture, physio, the osteopath. They're also people that can support with pain. They can support with both types. They can help you with real pain, your kind of injuries, and they can also support you with your chronic pains as well, those invisible illnesses. Again, do some research, make sure you're looking at the right places and you're getting the right help. But you can see reflexologists. A lot of masseurs now are trained in pain management. I actually have a massage booked for tomorrow morning, with a lady who's done her research into the chronic conditions so she can support people better. There are not very many people out there that can do those kind of things, but it is getting more and more common. The chronic conditions are getting more understood nowadays, and there's a lot more people out there that are speaking out and showing that they've got it. So you have Facebook groups where you can get support as well. So if you have a specific condition like lupus or ME or MS or something like that, there are specific groups that you can join. Again, you have to be really careful and make sure that you are joining the right groups. So there are groups that are supportive, that will help you to stay strong, that will help you to have your good days and your bad days, and they'll be there and they'll provide you with different things that you can do. And then there are support groups that are just they're kind of there to allow you to just vent and moan, and then what you get is a very negative environment. And if you're somebody that suffers with an invisible illness or somebody who has a chronic condition, the last thing you need is that negative environment, because it's just going to make you worse. So these kind of groups where it's a challenge as to who's worse than who, so you put a post up saying, oh, I'm feeling like this today, and then somebody else is like, well, I was worse than that yesterday and I'm worse than that today. If you find yourself in that kind of group, you need to leave and you need to get yourself out and find yourself a supportive group. So again, if you're interested in knowing what groups are out there, drop me a comment, let me know, and at the end of the live I can send you some links and things like that. There are a few that I found. There's a rheumatoid arthritis group which is run by the British Rheumatoid Arthritis Society, so again, you know you're getting the right support. There's a really great charity for fibromyalgia called Fibro UK. Be careful because there's a couple of rubbish ones there as well, so just watch when you're joining. And just make sure that you are taking control of the support that you get. And the biggest kind of support you can rely on is family and friends. Now, a lot of people that I speak to that have got pain conditions find it very difficult to talk to their family and speak to their friends and get support and advice. Now, I'm very lucky. I have a very good support network. I have an amazing family and I have some really wonderful friends who support me, look out for me and understand my condition. Maybe it wasn't all like that at the very beginning. It took everybody a little bit of time to understand the condition. I didn't understand it myself, so I couldn't really tell people what I needed because I didn't know what I needed to be able to ask for that support. So you have to make sure you've got a good network of people around you. Yeah, of course, Sarah, I'll send you some links and make sure that they're there so you can join some decent groups and get some support. There's some really lovely ones. So you kind of need to make sure that people understand it. You can't expect family and friends to understand why all of a sudden you're cancelling appointments or you don't look like you used to, or you're down more than you used to be, if you don't explain what's going on. So you need to be able to be honest, but not be an attention seeker. You know, make sure that you're being honest and you're saying how you're feeling without being dull about it. And again, there's lots of things that I can show you and help you that will come up in a little while that will help you with that. So just kind of clarify a little bit of the support side there. So you have your medical support, GPs, physios, that kind of thing. You have your alternative therapies, which is your acupuncture. Again, physio comes under that, massage places, reflexology, herbalists, all those kind of people. And then you have your medication as well. Now, I'm not going to give any advice on medication. Legally, I'm not allowed to, and morally, it's not right to. But you can get pain relief in your pharmacy, and you can get pain relief from your GP. All I would say is if you're taking painkillers, make sure you're not taking more than the recommended dosage, and only take them when you need them. If you're taking painkillers every single day and you're not managing your pain levels against your pain relief levels, then that's when you start looking at being addicted and having serious problems. So you need to make sure that you are taking your pain relief correctly and that you're getting the right advice, seeing your doctor, getting it reviewed every now and again, all of that kind of stuff. So, coming back to your family and friends a little bit more, and I've got a private message here about that as well. So, yeah, I've got a quick message here about how to speak to family and friends. So, it can be really difficult. If you're lucky and you've got family who are really supportive, then they will take the time to do the research, they will read the leaflets that you give them, and they will learn to understand and be supportive. And it won't always work. There'll be days when it doesn't work and they're just as grumpy as you are and things like that, but most of the time it will work. However, unfortunately, there are a lot of people that don't have this good network of friends and family. A lot of people with chronic conditions who are on their own, who just have nobody around. And they might have a very small circle of friends. Maybe it's a couple of people at the bingo, or it's people that they've met at a club or a support group or something. And being able to explain how you feel and what is wrong with you can be very difficult. So, some of the things that I've learned is get some leaflets, get some literature that you can hand out. Be careful, you don't need to hand it to the lady in Tesco's. She don't want to read a leaflet about your illness, you know. Keep it, you know, to your tight-knit friends and family. But it means that they can take it away, they can read it when they're ready, they can refer back to it. So if something's happened and they're not quite sure, they can go back to the information and reread it. Links on the internet, you've got to be really careful that you are sharing links that are right and that they're approved. There is some real rubbish on the internet. If you Google your illness, then you know you're going to come away feeling really depressed. So if you Google it and send that link to your mum and dad, they're going to have a panic attack over something like that, because somewhere within that literature or that Google link is going to be, you know, almost your death sentence. So make sure that anything that you are sending other people is approved. It's from the British Society or it's from the NHS, that kind of thing. You know, Joe Blogs, who's done a little blog about an illness, that's their experience. It doesn't mean to say that it's approved or it's real. So just be really, really careful. Also, talk to them about how you feel, and that is the biggest thing you can do. So have conversations, speak to people about close friends and family. If you're having lunch or you've gone out for dinner or you're visiting, you know, tell them how you feel. It's very easy when you're suffering with a condition to have a default sort of setting of I'm fine. You know, people say, how are you? And there are two types of people with chronic conditions. You have the people that say they're fine and never want to talk about it and suffer in silence. And then you have the people who kind of drag it on a little bit. And I do refer to it as attention seeking, and I don't mean that in any disrespectful way, but it's kind of the best way that I can kind of explain it. Hi Emily, how are you? So if you're that person who's an attention seeker, just turn it back a little bit. And I do understand that when you're suffering and you're feeling poorly and you've got a chronic condition, it can feel really lonely, and it can feel that nobody understands and that nobody cares, and that, you know, it's horrible. It's a dark place to be. And so if somebody's giving you a little bit of a little bit of attention or asking you how you are, it's very easy to latch to that and and absorb that. But what happens is you become draining to other people. And people stop asking. They stop wanting to know, because it becomes a, oh God, don't ask how she is, because you'll hear all about a medical appointment, you'll hear all about all her aches and pains. And people, they are interested. They do want to know how you are. What they don't want to do is they don't want to be brought down. They don't want to leave you feeling more depressed than you are. And I know that sounds really harsh, but I'm being really honest. And I did say in the bit about the event and what I was doing, I was going to be brutally honest with people. You know, it is very difficult, and this is where you need the support groups, because that is where you can be a little bit more draining, because that's what they're for. But when you're talking to family and friends, they want to help you, they want to be there for you, but what they don't want to do is they don't want to become absorbed in the condition. They don't want to start to feel dragged into it, and it is very hard. And I've done it myself. I know I've spoken to my family. I've had conversations with my mum where I've gone, God, I must sound really depressing, and see she's liking it. Yeah, exactly. And it's horrible. You kind of come away thinking, oh my God, they must hate me visiting. They must think, oh my God, I hope you don't come around again too soon. That was really draining. But you latch to the attention. You want somebody to kind of go, there, how are you doing? You're being really strong and all that kind of stuff. You need to do that for yourself. You need to be that strong individual yourself, and you need to rely on you to pick yourself up. Explaining to friends and family is about them understanding your condition enough to be able to support you. So to nip round and make you a cup of tea on a bad day, to be understanding that you've cancelled lunch for the 3rd time because you're having a bad day, to understand that actually when they talk to you, you're a bit spaced out because you've taken medication. They shouldn't be there to hold you up and carry you through the condition, because you've got to learn to do that yourself. And if you can learn to do that yourself, you start to be able to control the condition. And again, I'll come to some great tools in a bit about how you can do that. So, moving on to those tools and the techniques, a nice little moving, I think. There are lots of different ways. So, there are tools you can use to help you to pace the condition. There are tools you can use to help you explain the condition. And there are tools you can use to help you to deal with it and to control it yourself. So I will run through a couple of them. I'll let you know what I've called them and how they work, and I'll tell you how I've used them. And again, drop me a comment here if you want any more information, or after the live I can send you some written information that I've done. I've done a few little newsletters and a few little blogs about them that I can just send out to people if you want them. So, one of the ones I like most is my red and yellow cards. And this is something that I've been doing for a long time. So this is about kind of making sure that you are able to have different days. So if you've got a chronic condition, you don't feel the same every day. You have good days and bad days. And if you're on a bad day, and it's a Monday, and you know you've got the rest of the week to go, if that bad day is really, really bad, you need to take your time to rest, okay? But if it's not that bad, but you're feeling a little bit low, then if you absorb that bad day, then the rest of the days become really bad as well. So I give myself 1 red card and 2 yellow cards a week. And they're visual cards. You can buy them online, or you can hold them up if you like, or just write them on the calendar, whatever you like. But I'm only allowed to use 1 red card a week, and I'm only allowed to use 2 yellow cards a week. So that gives me 4 days where I have to suck it up and cope with my condition. And I don't mean suck it up as in I'm not allowed to talk to anybody about it or take painkillers, let's be realistic. But my 1 red card is a day where I can feel really low and feel really sorry for myself, and I can decide that I am the hardest in the world and that nobody's got a worse condition than me. That's my self-pity day. That's a day where I stay in bed if I want to. I can stay in my PJs. I'll probably ring my mum up and have a really good cry. But I'm allowed 1 red card a week where I can feel sorry for myself. And I have to be really careful when I use that card. So if on a Monday I'm feeling a little bit low, do I really want to use my red card just yet? Or do I want to see how the week's going to progress? Because I might need it more later. Because if I use it on Monday, I've got 6 more days where I can't use it again. So that might be where I swap the red card for a yellow card. and that's where I'm allowed 2 of those. And they're where I'm allowed to feel a little bit crap, and maybe I don't get dressed and I keep my PJs on until the school run. It might be I cancel my lunch, or I say to my friends, look, do you know what, I can't meet you for lunch, but you're welcome to come round because I'm in a onesie and I'm going to stay like this today. There are also the days I can take my slightly stronger painkillers. They're the days that I can, you know, put the laptop down and go, do you know what, I can't work from home today. It's just, my concentration's not there. And I'm allowed to use 2 of those. And then that gives me 4 days a week where I show up, I get dressed, I'm a mum, I'm a wife, I'm a daughter, I'm a friend, and I make the best of the day. Now, I might not get through the whole day on that green card, and I might, towards the end of the day, start to fall a little bit flat. But by giving myself those cards, I start the day off better. And all it is, it's just a way of trying to cope a little bit better. So if I get up on a Monday morning and I give myself a red card straight away, that's that whole day wasted. I'm in bed, I'm totally wiped out, that's that done. If I start the day going, no, do you know what, I'm going to green card today, I'm going to do my best. So I get up and I get washed and I get dressed and I go downstairs and I do my best. Halfway through the day I might go, do you know what, no, it's going to have to be a yellow card today, it's too much for me. But who knows, I might get to 2-3 o'clock before I start to feel too much. It might now be 5 o'clock before I need to have a half-hour kip. If I'd red carded that day, I would have wasted that day. Well, actually, I've been able to do something. I've been able to get up, get dressed, or go out for a walk, or I've been able to do something because I've green carded it. And I've said, no, actually, today's a day I'm going to try to do better. So that's how I use my cards. Now, depending on the condition you have, and depending on how you cope with your pain, you could have 2 red cards, 3 yellow cards. You can have as much as you like. Don't be sorry, Mum, you're amazing. Now, you can have as many of those cards as you like. You decide your cards. I've decided on 1 red card and 2 yellow cards because for me, I've got young children and I want to be able to see them off to school and I want to be there for them and I want to be a good mum, and I don't want my kids growing up remembering I spent most of the time in bed, you know, even though I feel like that some days. You know, I want them to see a different side of me. But by giving myself a red card, I can have a day where I go, it's just not going to happen, and you know, and Chris has got used to those days, so I'll say to him in the morning, do you know what, it ain't happening today, and he's like, right, okay, it's takeaway for dinner, or I'll do dinner. Don't do any housework, I'll get the kids from school. That's a day he knows, bloody hell, actually, it must be really bad, because she's kind of going, I ain't getting up. Whereas, if I overused that, and I was doing that on my kind of half bad days, where I could yellow card it, then he'd be going, what, again, I've got to go work, and do dinner again, and do the school run. Eventually, over a period of time, he'd start to get a little bit fed up. And all the best in the world, I'm sure he loves me dearly, but if people are being relied on to carry you and carry the family all the time, it does start to have an effect on your relationships. Friends will stop asking to meet you for lunch if every time they come round you're in your PJs in bed. You know, they don't want to see you like that. But now and again, you're more likely to get the right attention. If my friends turn up for lunch and I'm in my pyjamas, they bring cake. They go, right, do you know what, if she's in her PJs still, it is a bad day. You know, she has really struggled this week. So I get cake out of it. It's worth it. You know, it's worth struggling for a couple of days to get a free bit of cake. So can you see how the cards work? They're a visual aid for you to just try. And the other thing I do when I'm using the cards is I split my day up. So if I get up in the morning with the kids, see them off to school, and then I start thinking, actually, I'm starting to struggle, rather than deciding I've got to wait till 10 o'clock at night, which, God, that seems like ages away, I'm really going to struggle with that, I just try to get till 12 o'clock. So I go, do you know what, let's just try and get to lunchtime. If I can get to 12 o'clock lunch, if I feel really bad, I can go for a sleep or I can go back to bed. When I get to 12 o'clock, I then go, well, actually, I might watch a movie. So that will get me till 1:30, 1:45. then I go, right, well, actually, the school run's in an hour. I'm going to try and just get to the school run. And then I do the school run, and I get home, and I go, right, do you know what? No, now I need a sleep, like I did today. Or I go, well, actually, it's now 4 o'clock. You know, I've done all right today. This morning I didn't think I could get through the day, but it's now 4 o'clock. I've only got, you know, a quarter of the day left to go. So then I go, right, well, do you know what? Maybe I'll just have an early night. So all I've got to do now is get to 8 o'clock. And then when 8 o'clock comes, I think, well, actually, I don't feel too bad. I might stay up till 10. So what I've done now is I've separated my day to a position where I've got through the whole day. I've now managed from 8 in the morning till 10 at night. And I've had lunch, and I've picked the kids up from school, and I've sat with the family and had dinner, and I've sat and watched a film with Chris, and now I'm ready for bed. And do you know what? At 8 o'clock this morning, I didn't think I could do that. But it's like a marathon, which is a really good way of explaining it, considering I had the London Marathon yesterday. So if I got up today and decided I'm going to run a marathon tomorrow, I wouldn't be able to do it. There's no way, because I'm not trained, I haven't prepared myself or anything. So what you do when you train for a marathon is you break it down small chunks. You go, right, I'm going to run a mile. At the end of that mile, you feel absolutely knackered and you think, I can't do this. And then you do that for a week, and then that feels easy. And then you decide you're going to run 5 miles. And then when you run 5 miles, that feels like you can't do it and it's too much and you ache like hell. And then after a couple of weeks of doing that, that becomes easier. And now you're going to do 7.5 miles. When you're running up to 26 miles, you're going to do a 10k first, then 15. You do it gradually. It's exactly the same when you're managing your pain. You get up in the morning and you go, okay, what do I need to do today? Well, I need to brush my teeth, brush my hair and get dressed. That's all I do today. Then at least I'm clean and I'm dressed. That's a success. So, tick, well done you. If you get up and you get washed and you get dressed and you think, okay, I can handle this, then what else can you do today? What else is on your list? Can you go for a little walk? Can you make a few phone calls and talk to a few friends and be a bit sociable? Can you get on the laptop and do a little bit of work? You can start to break down your day in small chunks in exactly the same way that you run a marathon, in small pieces, and the end goal is being just to get through your day. And okay, you know, it may sound daft that, okay, there's these people that can run 26 miles and I'm talking about just being able to manage a day. But when you have a chronic condition, your life's different. You know, it's not the same. You know, you can't do the same as everybody else. I can't go for a 10k run with my friends. I don't think I would have done before, if I'm really honest. And any of my friends that are watching would know I'm lying if I said I'd planned to. I was never one for wanting to do exercise. But a lot of my friends are running at the moment, and I see all their updates on Facebook, and they've run 10k, and they've run 12k, and they did 5k at lunchtime, and I'm enormously proud of them, and it's amazing. And I do sometimes kind of sit there thinking, oh, that'd be lovely to be part of that. But I can't, you know, it's not where I am right now. But I can support them by liking their posts, telling them how wonderful they are, being there at lunchtime to talk through all their stuff that they're doing and all that kind of stuff. So I have my place, and that's fine. But if I tried to go and run a 10k, I'd suffer for days for something like that, which is just ridiculous. So you have to start to adjust the new you. And the new you can't run a marathon. But the new you can chunk your day down so you can get through each day. Rather than feeling really depressed, that every morning when you get up you feel achy and stiff and sore, by just trying to get to lunchtime, and then from lunchtime just trying to get to the school run, and then from the school run trying to get to dinner time, and then dinner time trying to get to bedtime, you can get through your days a lot faster and a lot easier, and just things become better, because all of a sudden you're a mum that's doing the school run again. You're picking your kids up every day, and that's amazing and fantastic. And, you know, maybe you had a few days where you couldn't do that, and now you can. So, you know, thumbs up, well done, that's brilliant. So that's another tool I use, which is one that I think I find I probably use the most. We then have a kind of more of a understanding your pain type tool, and this I got from a physio, and I've completely stolen this one, but I went and saw a physio and he was explaining to me that pain is like a fire alarm. So if you have a chronic condition, if you imagine that your pain levels are like a fire alarm or a smoke alarm. So that smoke alarm, fire alarm, will go off whether or not you are burning toast, there's an actual fire, the house is burning down, it's a small fire, it's a big fire, or if there's no fire at all but there's a fault in the mechanics. The sound that the fire alarm or the smoke alarm makes is exactly the same. It doesn't change. So you don't have one beep for I'm failing, one beep that the kids are burning the toast, and one sound because it's actually there's a fire and you need to get out of the house. Your pain is exactly the same when you have a chronic condition. So things like fibro and lupus and MS and stuff like that. Your pain levels are glaring at you. They are screaming and shouting for attention. But you don't necessarily have an injury. So the house isn't burning down. You haven't broken a leg. It's just, it kind of feels like that. You haven't pulled a muscle. It just feels like that. So all that's happened really is there's a bit of burnt toast, which is that your brain has decided that it's, remember we talked about the 1 to 10 or 0 to 10 earlier, your brain's mixed all that up, and we'll come to that in a second. So what the fire alarm or smoke alarm kind of tool does is help you to understand that sometimes you can feel that your pain is going to be the worst ever. Hang on, I just need to do a little bit of walking around. Lucky my bedroom's quite tidy because I need to put the light on. It's got really dark all of a sudden. There you go, you can see me better. So when you're talking about your pain levels, and we refer to things like the kind of harshness of them or how bad they are. You can have a raging pain when you get up in the morning where it feels like you've damaged a muscle or you've strained something, and you haven't, because remember it's this invisible condition. There's not actually an injury there. It's the malfunction in the brain. So when you go running off to the doctors and they take a scan and there's nothing there, that's what we look at with the smoke alarm, is that, you know, the pain was exactly the same as it would be if you had an injury, but it's burnt toast. There's no actual injury there. And this is what the physio was explaining to me as a way of kind of saying that he believed me, and that when I told him to do certain exercises really hurt, but what he was saying was there's no injury there. There's no torn muscle. The tendons are fine. We've had an x-ray. We've had an MRI. We can clearly see that there's inflammation, but there's no injury. So you're not going to damage yourself by doing exercise. And this is where I talk a little bit about exercise. And I know that there's a few people that have got things like fibro and stuff who are probably going to start ranting and raving at me because exercise is really difficult. But it does work. And it does. And I know we all hate it, and on your red card days you're liable to hit somebody that suggests you do some exercises, but seriously it does help, it does work, because what's happened is your body has started to stiffen up because it isn't moving around. So then you do start to get aches and pains, real aches and pains, not these invisible ones, because your body's not being used and it's not doing anything. So you do start to find you get stiffness and sore muscles. So by doing a little bit of exercise, you are making sure the muscles keep moving. So if you're somebody that's ever had a back injury, you'll know that there are 2 stages of back injury. There is when it's in spasm, which is the worst pain you've ever had in your entire life, and you can certainly feel like you're never going to move again. And when you have that spasm, you're supposed to rest, and you're supposed to let the muscles have time to relax and start to loosen a little bit, because they've knotted, so they've become this big tight knot, and you need to allow them to relax a little bit. The next stage of that, you still have the pain, but the spasm has gone, and that is when you're supposed to exercise. And what you're supposed to do is very gently, little stretches, little movements, walking up and down, getting up, getting down. Because if you stay sat when you're past the spasm part, then those knots are going to start to stick and stay. So if you've ever been to see an osteopath or anything like that, or a physio, they tell you to exercise. And I know when I'm having my bad days, the last thing I want to do is get up and go for a walk. But if I do get to go for a small walk, whether it be for 5 minutes down to the shop, a little wander around, sometimes Chris will drive us to go outdoors or somewhere and we'll have a little wander around and look at the camping stuff and things. That's enough for me, but it's got me out, it's got me walking about, it's got a little bit of exercise. I guarantee the next day I'm feeling a little bit better. I've got a little bit more movement. If you take yourself to bed and you stay there past the spasm point of a back injury, past the burnt toast, if you like, of the pain relief, then what actually happens is those muscles start to seize and they start to kind of knot up, and then what you have is more pain because now you've got all these seized muscles that you need to deal with. So exercise does help. I'm not going to go into too much about the exercise and things because I know there's a few people with other conditions that are watching the live, and you know they've been told that they're not to exercise and things like that. So you know that is exactly what you should be doing, is taking your doctor's advice. But what I am saying is, for those of you, hi Denise, thanks for joining. For those of you that have got those invisible conditions where your GP has suggested you exercise, he's not telling you to go to the gym and start lifting weights. He's just telling you to get out of bed, move around, just get the muscles working, and that does work too. So we've covered the red card, we've covered the breaking your day down like the marathon, we've covered our smoke alarm sort of theories. And then you've got a couple of others. So you've got the spoon theory, and this one you can actually look up online because it's not one of mine. It's an actual, a lady produced it who's got lupus. I'm just going to have a drink. She has lupus and ME, and she put together this model called the spoon theory, and I've loved it from day one. And basically what it is, you give yourself a particular number of spoons each day, and every action that you do each day, whether it get up, brush your teeth, get washed, get dressed, brush your hair, every one of those uses a spoon. And then when you run out of spoons, you are supposed to then rest. That is you've used up everything. So you can decide whether or not you have 16 spoons, 26 spoons, 32 spoons. You work out based on your average day. So what you do is keep a diary for about a week of everything that you do that day and all the different things that you are going to be doing. So a Monday might be a day where you've got loads of stuff to do, so you write all of those things down. Tuesday might not be so busy, so you write those things down. And then over the course of the week, you look at what your average is. And that's based on what you could manage. That's not you pushing yourself too far and hurting yourself. That's an easy, manageable day. And that becomes the number of spoons that you need a day to get from when you wake up in the morning to when you go to bed. So if I go and meet my friends for lunch, and Denise, you've just joined us, which is great timing because we've had this conversation. Me meeting Denise for lunch uses up one of my spoons. So that's how important she is to me. I use up one of my spoons to meet her for lunch. When I go around and see Emma for a cup of tea, that uses up one of my spoons. If I go to her, that uses 2 spoons because 1 drives round there and 2 is the being there, being sociable, drinking 1900 cups of tea because she makes a lot of tea. So what you then do is you then start to decide what's important and what you need to do. So if I'm looking and I've only got 6 or 7 spoons left, I might say to Chris, do you know what, can you make dinner today? So that's saving myself a couple of spoons because I'm not making dinner. Saving those spoons might mean that I can sit and watch a film with the kids because now I've got a spoon left to do that. If I use up all my spoons because I've done the school run and I've been round to see Emma and I've driven round there, or I've gone out for lunch with somebody and I've driven, and then I've done some housework, I've done some hoovering, and I've also washed my hair today, there is no surprise that when the kids get home from school, I'm completely whacked out and I'm no good as mum to them because I've used up all my spoons for the day. So for me, that's a really good way. Again, I'm quite a visual person, so the whole idea of the spoons is quite good because I don't literally have 16 metal spoons and each time I use one I put it in the drawer. That might be going too far. But what I do is I use it as a visual aid to say, what can I do? So when my friends or people are asking me to do things for them, or if I've got a family birthday to go to in the evening, I weigh up my spoons that day. What am I going to need? So I might choose to not do something so I can do something later. And that's a really useful tool. If you're struggling to control your condition, or you keep getting to the halfway through the day and you're completely knackered and you don't know why, or you're really struggling to be able to get to the end of the day and spend time with your husband once the kids have gone to bed because you've worn out, using the spoon theory is a great way to be able to say, well actually I know what to do and I can do this. So that's really useful. So another one is a mobile phone battery. So using that as a kind of an aid or an idea. If you're down to 20%, you don't go and do a Facebook Live because you're going to drain your battery. If you're down to 50% on your battery and you want to go out for the day, you charge it up before you go. It's exactly the same with your body. What you do is you go, well, actually, I'm going to go to London for the evening, so I need to charge up, so I'm going to have a sleep, or I'm going to rest for a few hours before I go. You charge your battery so that when you go, you've got full battery to work on. So that's another one that is kind of out there at the moment as a way of managing kind of conditions and things. A similar idea was given to me by the pain clinic, by a consultant that I saw, and that's using the petrol fuel tank as a kind of an idea. And what he said was, if you are going to London and you know that that's going to use up half a tank of fuel, you would make sure you've got half a tank before you go. You don't go and then you run out of petrol and then you push the car the rest of the way. You run out of petrol, you fill up your car. It's exactly the same with your energy levels. If you know you've got a long day ahead of you or you've got lots to do, you need to make sure that you have little stops in between to recharge. So if you are going to be going out for the day, you're going to the zoo or you're going to go to Alton Towers or something like that, one of the things you might do is hire a mobility scooter. You might hire a wheelchair, you might use crutches, but that's giving yourself the ability to rest in between. You might, when you go along, make sure that every hour you stop for a cup of tea, because you're not going to be able to do the whole park in one day and not suffer for it later. Whereas if you are doing your using the fuel tank kind of model, then you know that you need to stop every now and again to fill it up. And that's another kind of good one that if you're a visual person that needs to be able to physically see something, that helps you too. So there are some tools that I use to kind of manage my day. To do a little bit more discussion around the condition that I have, fibro, and for those of you that have similar conditions like lupus and things like that, it's when the brain kind of mixes up the signals. So do you remember we were talking at the very beginning about your 0 to 10 kind of scale, and we were talking about the brain puts little things in boxes and says, your broken bone is now a 9, giving birth to a baby is your 10, stepping on Lego is still like 37 because we know that's the worst ever. When you get a condition like cluster headaches, migraines and things like that, the problem you have with that is that's when the brain throws all of those all out of kilter and it mixes them all up. So all of a sudden it forgets that giving birth was a 10 and that your sore toe is a 3 and it makes your sore toe a 10. So it confuses your 0 to 10 scale. So all of a sudden, normal pains that you have that are no problem, that are no issue, that you can manage on a daily basis, you can get up one day and that pain can be a 10. There's no injury, there's nothing wrong with it. If you did an x-ray or a scan, it would show as normal.
but you have the pain levels. Your brain is producing the pain levels and is producing the toxins that it requires. It is working like a brain should and doing what it's supposed to do and producing those pain levels for your 8 or 9. So you do feel that pain, but it's misplaced, it's in the wrong place. And that's why these tools help, because by learning to pace yourself, learning to control it, learning to kind of stay focused and stay positive, you can start to retrain your brain what that 0 to 10 scale is. It takes a long time, and it doesn't always stay that way. Sometimes, after a period of time, it'll throw it back again, and all of a sudden, all that hard work has been thrown out because you've overdone it, you've got stressed, you've had something happen in your life that has kind of upset you. Any kind of stress, anger, upset, anything like that is going to throw that kilter out again. So all that hard work you've done on retraining your brain to think differently and apply itself and put that 0 to 10 in the right place again can literally, in the blink of an eye, be thrown back into where it was before, and you're right back to square one, and you have to start all of that positive thinking again, all of those pacing techniques, all of those tools. You need to do all of those kind of things again, because otherwise what happens is you stay stuck again, and you're right back at the start where your pain is controlling your life, and that's all it is. You know, the pain is there, and I'm not suggesting at any point that you're not in pain and it isn't painful, but distraction, exercise, the tools and things I've mentioned, they're all ways of managing your pain. It's not going to make it go away, it just makes life a little bit easier. And it helps you to be able to stay a little bit like the old you. It means that you can still keep your friendships, it means that you can still do things with your family, things like that, but it just makes life a little bit easier. And it means that when you get up in the morning, you can judge your pain for the day and say, do you know what, today's not a bad day, I can do a few things, or actually today's a bad day, I need to rest. And people need to understand that you are going to be different every day, that you are going to have good days and bad days, and that's why you need to explain these things to your friends and family, so they understand that actually today's a bad day, which means that although I was doing really well yesterday and I looked really well, today I feel like shit and I don't feel particularly well. You know, those kind of things happen, and that's where you are with a chronic condition. Your brain is confused, and if you imagine it like, say for instance, if you consider that your brain controls your eye movements and your breathing and your heart rate and everything, all of a sudden when you're nervous, your heart rate goes up. If you're really stressed at work, you get eye strain. If you're out in bright sunlight, you get a headache. All of those kind of things. That's because the brain is a little bit like a manager, really, in that it's sending out all of these techniques and all of these kind of orders, but it doesn't actually know what's really going on. So if you imagine like with your eyes, the brain's going, right, you need to keep on the laptop, you need to keep reading, you need to keep doing this. The eyes start to get sore and get tired. The brain's going, no, you're all right, keep going. And in the end, you get sore eyes and you get dry eyes, and they start to play up, and you have to take your glasses off and all of those kind of things. That's because the brain isn't actually understanding that the eyes have had enough, they need a break. It's exactly the same when you look at any part of the body that is controlled by the brain. The brain wants to do it all the time at full pelt, and the body needs to relax. So, you know, the brain will tell you that you want a night out with your friends, and yeah, you can drink 100 Jaeger bombs and you'll be fine. The liver's going, oh my God, I can't control all this poison coming in. So for the next couple of days, your kidneys are going to hurt and your liver's going to be a bit crap. You might go a bit yellow, all of that kind of stuff, because the brain's idea of what the body could manage and control was different to what the body actually could control, which is quite a lot like a few managers I've worked with in the past. It's exactly the same when you've got a chronic condition, when you've got a pain condition, things like chronic fatigue syndrome, lupus, cluster headaches, all of those kind of things, migraines. The brain thinks you can do more than you really can, and it gets confused. And then what happens is the body can't keep up, and so you get miscommunication and you get misunderstandings. And once you understand that you're not imagining it, and it's not all in your head, and it isn't fake, but it also isn't real, you can start to manage it better. You can start going, right, well actually, yes, my leg hurts, but there's not an actual injury there. So I'm not going to damage it by doing a couple of stretches and getting the muscles moving. I'm not going to damage it by resting and pacing myself. And, you know, you just need to understand your ability better and understand your limits better. And once you can start going, right, I've done my diaries, I know my pain levels, I know how many spoons I need, I've recharged my batteries, I've got my mobile charged up, all of those tools and things that I've been talking about, when you start to apply those on a daily basis, you start to control your pain better. And the minute you start to feel like you've got control, you start to feel more positive. As soon as you start to feel more positive, your pain starts to ease up a little bit. Your pain starts to ease up a little bit, you start to feel better about yourself, you have better control. Better control, you can do more. So there's a positive circle being created. And I'm not saying that, you know, using these techniques and these tools are going to cure you. Never said that from the start. They're just going to make life a little bit easier. So, unless anyone's got any questions or anything, it's been quite quiet, so I'm hoping that you've been able to put the questions up, and if I haven't seen them, I'm sorry. I will read them back later and comment, and I will, Sarah, send you that information that you asked for as well. But yeah, if there's anything, I'll hang about for a couple of minutes, just because when you are doing the comments, it takes a little bit of a delay for them to come through, so I don't want to kind of hang up on anybody. But I hope you found it useful. I hope that nobody feels that I'm kind of putting down their pain and making it look like it's not real or not believable, because that's not my aim. It's just to help you to understand it a little bit better, and it's coming from somebody that I do have my bad days. I do have my days when I don't get dressed. It isn't perfect. This makeup was put on half an hour ago. You know, it's just one of those things. But if you do have any questions, give me a shout. And if anybody does want to work with me on a one-to-one basis with managing their pain, then please let me know. I can always arrange a little bit of a chat with you, and we can take it from there. But hopefully you found it useful. It has been quite a long one, I think. It's been an hour. Oh, it's 8:31, just 1 minute over my time, so not too bad. I'm getting better with my time management. I will load this onto YouTube, and it will be there for you to watch on playback if there is anybody that you would like to show it to, or if unfortunately you've not been able to watch the whole hour, if you've had other things to do and things like that. So thank you, Mum, I'm pleased you liked it. But yeah, any questions, any queries, just give me a shout. I hope I can help you more. Anyway, take care, have a lovely evening, rest of your evening. I'm going to go and make a cup of tea, or get the kids to make me one anyway, and have a nice evening. See you soon. Bye.